live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks so much for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It is Monday, September 11th. Going in depth tonight on a man surviving a grizzly bear attack, how he's recovering here in Utah tonight. We'll also go in depth on the latest with Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand, a conversation with Jody's niece that you'll only see here on 2 News Live tonight. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us during the show. Use the hashtag 2 News Live to join our conversation. And of course, you can always find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send a direct message to any of those platforms to weigh in. A Montana man recovering in Utah after a grizzly bear attacked him while he was tracking a deer happened over the weekend in the Buck Ridge Yellow Mule area. This is near Big Sky, Montana. Surrounding area closed tonight as wildlife officials search for that bear. Amanda Gilbert joining us live now after exclusively speaking with that man's family. Amanda, they're here in Utah. What did they tell you?
Yeah, Rudy Norlander's the man. He has a business in Montana where he rents out side-by-sides. He was helping this dad and son duo look for a wounded deer on Friday. He stepped off the side-by-side and he barely had any time to react when a large grizzly bear came charging at him. His sister tells me that Rudy actually did fire his gun, but it was a misfire, and then the bear was on top of him. He is now at the University of Utah ICU trying to recover. Today he tried to walk again for the first time. He's got surgery tomorrow, his family tells me, where they'll hopefully start reconstructing his jaw, because I'm told he has so many injuries, including a lot of his jaw is now gone.
Got his whole bottom jaw, so he doesn't have any teeth or jaw. Puncture wounds in his head from bites. Yeah, the bear was shaking him around, and then he's got puncture wounds in his arms. He has bear claw marks across his chest and on his right leg.
Now, Rudy is a veteran, so VA insurance is helping, but the family did start a GoFundMe because he's going to be without work probably the rest of this year. He's got a lot of surgery and recovery ahead, so we do have that online fundraiser on our news app. But just such a scary story, Brian. I'm so glad he is here he is alive today. His family is just so grateful that he's here with us.
Amanda, you mentioned grateful to be alive. In these circumstances, you normally don't hear about people surviving some of these incidents. So what did they believe saved Rudy in this moment? How did he end up at the hospital here in Utah in the first place?
Yeah, that's both great questions. So that dad and son duo I mentioned, they heard Rudy scream and they tried to step in. They needed to wait to fire any shots. They didn't want to hit Rudy, but luckily Rudy's sister told me it sounds like the dad did kind of fire a shot that scared the bear away. And then multiple agencies responded and flew him to a hospital in Montana, but he was eventually taken to the hospital here in Utah just because they have more resources for what he needs now for recovery and reconstruction. So coming up at 6, very soon here, you're going to hear from Rudy's sister. Amanda Gilbert, KUTV 2 News.
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. If you'd like to read more about that story, it's on our website, KUTV.com. Let's talk about the weather now, the change of the seasons. Meteorologist Chase Thomason here with us on 2 News Live. Obviously with your forecast, but if you like to go doing the leaf peeping here, when's
Family
the best
photos?
time? Oh, well,
Yeah.
You know, the photos are big here in Utah. You got to get the
yes.
whole gang out there and pick the perfect backdrop.
That's right. And typically it's in early October is when they really peak in the foothills and in the mountains here in Utah. However, I was in the mountains over the weekend and I already started to see a couple trees starting to make that turn, but it's very, very, very early, still patchy. But give it another 3 to 4 weeks, mountains across Utah peaking in early October, valleys usually by mid-October sometime.
What is it they say here in Utah? Just go to Colorado, right? Just don't come here and go there.
Yeah, for the, we don't want the crowd, so that's why we always say go
push
to Colorado.
them over there. Like it's like the skier mentality,
But
right?
of course,
Get over
Colorado is a little bit higher, a little bit colder because of the elevation, so they see their leaves turn a little bit earlier in late September.
Let's take a look at your forecast.
Let's get right to it. Today's temperatures have been very nice. We saw lots of 80s across really the entire state. Right now, 86 degrees in Salt Lake, Heber. You're at 79. So a little warm, but not too hot. 67 though in Ely, where we've had a few showers and storms nearby. Our rain chances chances are actually increasing for the rest of the week. Nothing too high. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get rain, but we do have a chance for a pop-up shower and storm tomorrow. Probably our best chance for rain will be Wednesday and Thursday. And it does look like some drier air is moving in as we wrap up the week and head into the weekend, so you can go ahead and make those outdoor plans. Maybe head up into the mountains. We do have a few of those showers already right now, mainly across portions of central and southwestern Utah. Over the mountains, they're drifting towards the east. That's where we have a little bit of rain and some cloud cover. Not really impacting a lot of the valleys, and they're kind of just hanging out in the mountains, but that will likely continue through this evening. You'll see where we have more rain up in Nevada. Moisture is spreading across the desert southwest. There's a very weak system that's going to be passing by as we head into tomorrow, and that'll bring another round of thunderstorms to southern Utah. There's a storm system, though, that's going to clip northern Utah Wednesday into Thursday, and that's when we'll have our best chance for rain and a drop in temperatures by the end of the week. That one coming from the northwest. So a little unsettled this week, but again, nothing too impactful. So don't expect a ton of rainfall over the next few days, but there will be some showers. Now, here are those lingering showers through this evening. We might see some cloud cover rolling into northern Utah by tomorrow morning, and there's a slight chance for a shower storm, especially over the mountains tomorrow afternoon. Best chance for rain will be in central and southern Utah with those scattered showers and thunderstorms. And then as we head into Wednesday, a few of these storms will try to roll into northern Utah Wednesday afternoon and evening, and again across portions of southern Utah. Does look like we'll start to dry out, though, in St. George by Thursday as we have some lingering showers to the north on Thursday. Flash flood potential is there. It is probable in the orange, so stay out of those slot canyons, especially towards arches and canyonlands. It is a possibility Tuesday and Wednesday at Bryce. Probability at Capitol Reef on Tuesday. It's a possibility in the yellow on Wednesday, and then a slight chance for flash flooding at Grand Staircase in Zion National Park. Mentioned by the weekend, we have some drier air. Great news for our in-state game, Weber State at Utah. Kicks off at noon. If you're tailgating, it'll be in the 60s. That's nice. Noon hour, 74 degrees, and not too hot by the end of the game, likely getting close to 80. So the weekend is looking really nice. St. George, few storms for Tuesday and Wednesday, upper 80s, not too hot, low 90s as we head into the weekend. And we'll keep it sunny Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Overnight lows comfortable in the low to mid 60s. We're in the low to mid 80s in Salt Lake for your Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we cool off into the mid 70s. I'm loving these temperatures. Again, not too hot, not too cold. It's early fall weather, if you will. Overnight lows will be going from the 60s to the 50s. And then again, it looks very sunny Saturday and Sunday. Like to get a little bit of rain during the weekday and then get some sunshine so we can all head outdoors over the weekend.
I've enjoyed a little bit of those cool mornings that we've had, at least over the last few days. I mean, cool is obviously relative, like high 50s, right, in certain areas.
Little crisp, maybe a light jacket, but if you have a cup of coffee or hot cocoa, feels really good in the morning.
It gets me thinking about football, although I don't want to talk about football after my Giants got popped 40-0 last night. If we could move
that
on,
was
actually.
rough.
I
Cowboys.
I initiated that conversation,
You know I'm a Cowboys
and I'm really
fan.
mad that I did.
Okay.
Well,
I'll rub it in.
I'm proud of you, if it means anything, but not proud of where we are here for the G-Men. All right, let's go in depth here on a topic we have talked about a lot here at KUTV 2 News. Despite the fact that Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Franke are still in police custody, Hildebrand's website is still up and taking appointments. So why hasn't her therapist's license been suspended since she's been booked for child abuse? Paul Nelson has been looking into this and spoke with some folks about why her license is still active at this point, even though she's in jail in Washington County. Paul, what did you find out?
Well, from what it sounds like with the division of professional licensing, it could be that her license won't be active for much longer. We do have officials from DOPL that say that they are working with law enforcement and also with the judge in this case to figure out what needs to happen when it comes to the license. And they are working for a resolution as far as that is concerned. However, they have two options in front of her right now. One of them is she could just sign away her license, have it be revoked on her own, which officials don't think that that's going to happen. But the other thing that could happen is that she could agree to limit her ability to treat patients. But at the same time, though, it's hard to say if her lawyers will agree to that also, because they actually need to prove imminent harm, and her lawyers might argue that, hey, look, she's actually in jail, so there's no imminent harm possible. So they are still working on a resolution, and it looks like they're working pretty hard on it, but it hasn't happened quite yet.
There are provisions in the Administrative Procedures Act that let us pursue an emergency action if there is imminent harm to people. And so that's something we consider with our attorneys.
Now that was Division Director Mark Steinagel, and he was talking about what exactly does it take for them to just decide to remove the license on their own if they feel like they needed to just kind of move unilaterally, as it were, in order to remove that license.
So, Paul, can't they just do that, though? Can't they just revoke her license? Do they not have the power to do so if they want to just take it on their own? But what else would they need to do to prove anything before they can do that?
Yeah, they do have to prove it. It's kind of like just the due process. And it's not necessarily as strict as a criminal case where it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt, but they do have to have proof. If they just have allegations, then that doesn't work. However, if they have several allegations of abuse, then that can actually lead to a pattern where they could decide to go ahead and take it on their own. But as he mentioned, it does require imminent harm has to be coming, but it doesn't necessarily have to be physical harm. Matter of fact, they even said that if her advice could lead to actual mental health harm to somebody, then they can go ahead and decide to make that decision on their own. However, for right now, they have given her those two options, and if she refuses those two options, then they can kind of take matters into their own hands, as it were.
Paul Nelson live for us tonight, looking into the licensing for Jodi Hildebrandt, a conversation that'll continue for sure here as this case continues out of Washington County. In a conversation you'll only see here on 2 News Live, I spoke with the niece of Jodi Hildebrandt. Now, Jessie Hildebrandt and I spoke today for about 20 minutes about her experiences while living and receiving therapy, in air quotes, as she said to me, from Jodi more than a decade ago. She talked about the abuses she alleges and the similarities to what she's seeing play out with Ruby Franke. A warning, some of this conversation may be sensitive to some. When was the last time you either saw, spoke to, or in a way heard from Jodi? Has it been a long time?
It's been a long time. I think it was a family member's wedding, like probably over a decade ago.
You were also under her care at one point, right?
Yeah, I was left in her care when I was a teenager, for a little under a year.
Have you met Ruby before?
No, I've never met Ruby. This is the first time I've ever even heard of her. I have gone and watched at least some of her videos. They're very difficult to watch just for my own experience with that form of therapy. It's quite triggering, to be honest. So I've never met her, but the things that she is saying and regurgitating are very, very familiar to me. It's interesting to watch I understand this, but it's interesting to watch the world respond to her and kind of putting her at the forefront. And I understand that she's the mother of these children, and it makes sense. But the philosophies and the therapeutic modalities that she's using are Jodi's. And these are not new. These are not, this is a pattern that Jodi has been engaged with for at least 14 years. I don't know if there are other people that she's used these on, but she's definitely taught. I know that she teaches parents to use these types of therapies, as she would call them. So yeah, it's been a really interesting experience watching everyone focus on Ruby, and I understand why, but this is Jodi. These are Jodi's words. These are Jodi's ideas. These are over decades old. So yeah.
Is that why you've called Jodi the mastermind behind all of this?
Yes. That doesn't excuse Ruby's involvement and her perpetuating these beliefs and these systems, but Ruby didn't come up with this. Ruby obviously supports it and has used these on her children, but this is coming from Jodi. In short, can you describe what you mean? Like, which practices are you talking about, just to make sure we're clear, because I know there's a lot out there. So which ones are you talking about that you've seen, that you're hearing about pertaining to her children, that you're familiar with too? Sure, yeah. So the things that I experienced while living with Jodi, I experienced being tied, I experienced being duct taped, I experienced being blindfolded, I experienced severe isolation, I experienced severe emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse. I experienced the being told I shouldn't be around other people, being told that I was dangerous to be around. People were afraid of me to the point where I was afraid of myself. I was physically, I was forced to sleep outside in the snow. I was, like I said, isolated for up to 12 hours a day. If someone spoke to me directly, if I wasn't wearing duct tape on my mouth, I had to just stare at them and not respond, because she also had systems of people that would report back to her if I broke any of these rules. And her whole thing, which is deeply, darkly ironic, is that everything stems from shame, and how horrible shame is, and that all of the reason, like all of mental illness, all tics, so like OCDs, addiction, everything stems from shame, which is just horrifying, because she is the greatest perpetuator of shame. She also, and this is like a very deep connection, and why I chose to come forward to the media rather than just staying with the podcast. She accused me of being a sex addict. She accused me of being addicted to masturbation, to the point where I wasn't allowed to, I mentioned this on the podcast, to the point where I wasn't allowed to use tampons. I never was allowed privacy unless I was isolated. So that included the bathroom. I was never allowed to have the door closed. Everything, like one, she used religion and God as a mode of control, and a mode to manipulate. And so I just believed all of these things. So her ability to convince you of these neuroticisms and these behaviors is, and I was a teenager. And so a child in that position of being told this over and over and over and over again, which I'm certain he was, stood no chance. She also, because of what the abuse and torturing that was going on, and the belief that she had that I was doing something more. So her rationale to the severity of these punishments and this physical and emotional abuse was, she wanted to make my life, and this is like her quote, like this is what she would tell me all of the time. She wanted to make my life so uncomfortable that it would force the sin out, that it would force me to confess. So things continuously got worse and worse, and progressively more and more intense, as a way to get me to confess, because she believed that if I had confessed everything, if all of my sins were out and in the open, that I would be getting better. And I was declining like very fast, exponentially. And so she just kept ramping it up. And so to hear Ruby tell the world that her child is a sex addict, a predator, and has been addicted to porn since he was 3 years old, it just echoes exactly the things that she was telling me and telling everyone around me. And I know that I think I don't know if I got this right, but I'm pretty sure that she's saying that he even confessed to it. Well, I also confessed to things that I didn't do as a way of trying to get the abuse to stop.
Do you feel like 6 felony charges, I mean, in your mind, is that enough punishment for what is alleged against them?
I mean, I don't think that it's the full scope. I mean, including my own child abuse that I experienced. I mean, I want justice, and I want fair justice. So I want everything that she has done, that both of them have done, to be held accountable. Whether that be 6, 12, 18, however many, I just want to see that she is held accountable for the things that she has done. But I personally believe that that is not covering everything that she's done. And I can say that because I know that she's not being held accountable for what she did to me. In the legal system, I mean.
When was the last time you either saw? So we've been following the 8 passengers story quite closely here. I mean, this is more than just that, as you've heard from Jesse Hildebrand. Jody, I've called her Lori a few times now, and I wonder why. There's a high-profile case I've done that. Jody Jesse says is the mastermind behind all of this. Those are direct quotes from her. She said that on the podcast last week. And then, of course, I talked to her at length today. It's about a 17.5-minute long conversation. Some of you, if you've been following this, I think you will find it quite captivating and quite interesting to learn more. It's on our YouTube channel right now. KUTV 2 News on YouTube. You can check it out there. Thanks for watching 2 News Live. We are continuing to go in depth on that case quite often here at KUTV 2 News, so you can, of course, find more on our website, KUTV.com. 5:30 Monday through Friday. You know where to find us, right here on 2 News Live. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. We will see you tomorrow. Take care.